What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be doing 10 Dynasty Fantasy Football trade reviews, and we got a special guest today, so I'm going to pull him right in. We got RayGQue from Destination Devy, everybody. So let's pull him in, and let's talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football. Ray, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Andrew? I'm doing good, man. How you doing this evening, man?
Man, I'm good. I just been watching a bunch of that quarterback on Netflix. I've been binging it, so loving it so far.
Yeah, man. It's I just saw a tweet from my boy JJ Zacharyson that thinks the show's kind of mid. He said, I can't explain how mediocre Netflix show Quarterback is, like watching an episode of Friends. I'm watching it too, Andrew. I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it. I like the behind the scenes access. They'll do better next year. Let's keep it going. I hope they continue to do this moving forward with other quarterbacks. But thanks for having me on. Excited to jump into some dynasty trades with you, bro.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on with me. And I may be biased a little bit on that quarterback show because you see the jerseys in the background. They got my boy on there. So we got some Captain Kirk. But I got these 10 Dynasty Fantasy Football trades, man. Let's dive into them. I'm going to pull them up one by one and let's just get our feedback on them. First trade we got here is going to be a 14-team Superflex tight end premium. And you see it. Team 1's getting Garrett Wilson. Team 2's getting T. Higgins and a 2024 first. So, Ray, give me your thoughts on this one so far.
Yeah, man. For me, it's right away. I love Garrett Wilson. He's one of the players that I think really could ascend to the next level this year, take his game to another level. But in a 14-team league, you're giving me a tier below receiver, a tier down at T. Higgins, and you're throwing in a 24 first. That side pretty easily for me. Give me T. Higgins and the leverage that I gained by having the liquidity of the 24 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think it really does come down to it being that 14-team league. You know, the depth, it kind of is a little bit more valuable when you got those 14 teams. I just have it on here, man. As far as points per game, now I expect this to come up for Garrett Wilson in 2023 with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. But last year, T. Higgins, 26th overall in points per game, and Garrett Wilson is 30th overall. I'll be taking T. Higgins in the first as well. So our second trade here is going to be 10-team. It's Superflex tight end premium as well. And we have DK Metcalf being traded for Tyreek Hill, Rachaad White, and a package of 24 fourths. So how do you feel about this one? I mean, I think right away, I really do not care about the 24 fourths. It looks like it's Tyreek Hill and Rachaad White for DK.
I mean, what are we doing? It's a 10-team league. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why would you do this? Like, I don't. This one doesn't make any sense to me from the angle of the person that gave up Tyreek Hill and Rachaad White. Maybe they were scared that Tyreek said he only wants to play a couple. I'm trying to rationalize this, and I really have nothing. The fact that you're giving up Tyreek Hill and Rachaad White, who Tyreek Hill is a bona fide starter in a 10-team league starting lineup. Rachaad White probably on that fringe RB2 fringe. So you're getting two potential starters for one receiver, and DK Metcalf, who doesn't even have the upside that a player like Tyreek Hill has. This one makes no sense to me. It's Tyreek Hill and Rachaad White by a country mile.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. I think from the points per game standpoint, you're going to get more out of Tyreek Hill. You're getting the additional piece in Rachaad White, who you can play in an RB2 role, in a flex role. I think, like you said, they maybe were scared about the age of Tyreek Hill or the potential retirement. But in Dynasty Fantasy Football, especially these days, I think 2 to 3 years like Tyreek gave us, that's a lifetime, man. Like most of these leagues don't even make it out of those 3 years. I mean, I know you get younger with DK, but they even just added JSN, and I don't know how you feel about JSN, but I think JSN is a really, really good wide receiver. I mean, he was my clear-cut wide receiver one in this class, and with him and Lockett, I just don't see DK having the finish that he had last year. I mean, he's being ranked right now as a top 15 wide receiver in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and he put up fantasy points per games wise. He was top 25. So he's being valued more than he even did last year from a points per game basis. And they added a first round wide receiver.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, he's outside of my top 15 in Dynasty rankings for receiver. The big issue with DK Metcalf is when you're trading away a player like Tyreek Hill, you've got to understand that you're trading away one of the rarest type players in their prime that the NFL game has seen. Tyreek Hill has an elite market share over 30%, an elite air yard percentage share over 40%. He's got a rare yards per route run. You look at the history of wide receivers and yards per route run over the last 10 years, very rarely do you see receivers having over 3 yards per route run. Tyreek Hill was able to accomplish that last year. And then yak per reception, he's pretty average. So it's one of the things that I coined the Holy Trinity. And if you want to spot an elite type wide receiver, Holy Trinity, just look at air yards, look at their target share, and look at their yards after the catch. If you've got a player that is above average to elite in those three categories, they're going to be really damn good. If you got two of those three traits, you're probably a very, very, very good receiver. One of three, you're replaceable. And when I look at DK Metcalf, unlike Tyreek Hill in those Holy Trinity metrics, he's got an elite light target share between 25 to 29%. Air yard share is good, but he's horrible with run after the catch. Below 3 yards per reception after the catch is not good. And then he's averaging yards per route run. So with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba, whatever expectations you have for DK being or becoming an elite receiver got a lot less likely, in my opinion.
Yep, I definitely agree with you there. So let's move on to trade number 3, and we have again a super flex tight end premium PPR. It is going to be TJ Hawkinson, Hunter Renfrow, and 3 fifth-round picks for Pat Freiermuth in a second. I think this is kind of similar to that last one. Would you say that as well, as far as trading one of those elite assets for a smaller package?
Here's the thing, and I'm trying to be reasonable here tonight. But I need more context. Tight end premium doesn't all mean the same. In a start 10, 1.5 tight end premium, I don't care. I just don't care about the tight end. Outside of Travis Kelce, you can look at point per game, look at warp distribution in that type of league for the tight ends not named Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. It doesn't really move the needle. So I would very rarely find myself in a start 10 trading for an elite tight end. So actually in that scenario, would I rather have TJ Hawkinson? One for one, absolutely. Give me Hawk over Pat Freiermuth. If you want to give me a second to get off Hawkinson and I'm getting Freiermuth back, just give me Hawk. This is just my big thing is 1.5 tight end premium just does not move the needle. It doesn't. Look at warp distribution in those type of settings. It really gets going at about 175, 2 points per tight end premium leagues. So outside of that, man, I just don't find myself really paying up for a tight end. But in the context of this deal, I mean, give me Hawkinson, but I'm actually fine with the Freiermuth in the second side. I am this trade for me. It just doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't make a deal like this.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. And actually, I will say in this trade being submitted, I'm actually in that league, so it is a half point premium for the tight ends in there. So it's not a lot for the tight ends, but you get a guy like TJ Hawkinson last year, number 4 in fantasy points per game, and we did see a little bit of an uptick for TJ Hawkinson after being traded to Minnesota. I do think that. With that being said, we do need to temper expectations a little bit with TJ Hawkinson, because that was being done with old aged Adam Thielen opposite. And now they go and they add Jordan Addison, who I think is going to be a lot better than what Adam Thielen was able to provide for the Minnesota Vikings last year. But, number 4
Andrew,
overall.
Andrew, I still like KJ Osborne. I mean, I understand that they've drafted Addison to be the guy of the future, but and you probably have more insight than me, but I don't think they're just going to throw Osborne on the bench and say you're not playing anymore, right? Like,
Oh, hell no.
Jordan Addison's the future, but Osborne's going to be out there contributing. So now I think the thing that we have to just be mindful of with TJ Hawkinson is it was really just, Jefferson, Hawkinson, Osborne had his spurts, and it was with an aging Adam Thielen. So adding another receiver of the caliber of Addison, having, Osborne still there, you've got Jets on one side, and who knows what the rushing attack is going to be like. I just say I'm cautious with Hawkinson this year. I love him.
And as a Vikings fan, I've been selling TJ Hawkinson in my Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues, because I think that the value of TJ Hawkinson, or the perceived value of TJ Hawkinson, is now outweighing what I think the production is. And I've been trading him and a piece and upgrading into that Mark Andrews tier, where I've been getting a guy who I think is a difference maker. And TJ Hawkinson, he's damn good, man, but he's not a superstar difference maker for your fantasy football teams. And I challenge you. You even brought it up. Like, go look at the last 4 games of the season. Look at the box scores and look at how much more KJ Osborne was playing during those. Go look at the difference he made as far as fantasy football goes, and look at what that does with TJ Hawkinson, because KJ Osborne was being worked in towards the end of last year. They were slowly starting to kind of take Adam Thielen off the field a little bit more. He just wasn't running as many routes, and you'll see it did affect a little bit. And like we've already talked about at this point, I mean, we don't got to beat it to exhaustion, but you add Jordan Addison and you have KJ Osborne, all of a sudden it's a little bit more of a fresh offense. There's just younger legs there and more talented legs, if we're just being honest. And I think TJ Hawkinson is overvalued in the community right now. And he's been somebody that I've been a fan of and I've been an advocate for. And I thought as soon as he got traded to Minnesota, it was a good time for you to go in and get a piece of it. But now, times change and he's overvalued. So I think it's time to, get off of TJ Hawkinson if you can upgrade. And I just don't know. For me, I don't know if this is a deal I'm making. If I have TJ Hawkinson, it's not enough for me to just sway off of what he's doing. I think as far as from a production standpoint goes, second round picks, they just don't do too much for me, man. Like, we know the hit rates on those second round picks, and it's going to get even worse, especially if the second ends up being a late. And I think when you're trading for picks, you should be projecting them late anyways. All right, let's get into trade 4. What we have there is going to be Austin Eckler and Tony Pollard, and a second round pick in 2024 for Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook. This is, again, Superflex tight end premium PPR. So, Ray, I see the reaction you gave me a little bit in the window. How are we feeling?
All right, you got some good names here. We've got some good names in this one. You got some Jonathan Taylors. You got some Dalvin Cooks. Listen, man, the side that got Eckler, Tony Pollard in the second, smash, smash, smash. Well done, 10-team league. I mean, hell, you might be getting 2 quarterbacks. I mean, maybe, potentially, in Pollard and Eckler, and you're getting a second-round pick. On top of that, 2 immediate starters, second-round pick. Here's the thing with picks. Just like you were talking about the hit rate on those picks, it's not even about the fact that you want to use the picks to make the selection. It's having the fluidity of the pick and the value of the pick that will only increase throughout your dynasty season, to where if you have an injury at receiver, at running back, and you need to go buy a DeAndre Hopkins, you need to go out and buy a James Conner, you've banked an extra second inside this deal, to where if anything goes awry, you have liquid capital that value will accrue to maneuver in order to go chase that chip. So, hell yeah, give me Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler in a second, and it's not even close for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you get younger if you get the Jonathan Taylor side, but I feel like at the running back position, it doesn't really matter anyways. We know the shelf life of these guys. And for what it's worth, man, last year, points per games wise, both Pollard and Eckler outscored JT from a points per game standpoint. And I know you get Dalvin Cook, and we don't really know what's going to happen there. I think best case scenario is he lands in Miami. I know Devon A-Chain managers don't want to hear that, but I think that's best case scenario for Dalvin Cook. But when it's all said and done, man, I think you definitely want the Eckler and Pollard side. And I got to ask you a question, because I've been kind of asking this myself, and I tend to lean on the side of, yes, it is going to affect Jonathan Taylor. But do you think that Anthony Richardson being the quarterback of the Colts will negatively affect Jonathan Taylor for fantasy football?
No, I think it'd be even better. I mean, it's what my friend at Player Profiler Matt Kelly called the Alfred Morris corollary. When you've got 2 dynamic runners in the backfield and you have action, remember, it's Shane Steichen, the same offensive coordinator that had Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders putting up the best yards of his career. This is going to be a lethal combination. Eye discipline is going to be critical from the defensive side of the ball. The edge rushers and defenders having a key on Anthony Richardson. If they collapse down, pitch it out to JT. This should yield big running lanes for Jonathan Taylor. So I love JT, and I love the side that got Jonathan Taylor. But the delta between Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook, I don't believe like that gap between those guys is so drastic that it would force me to take Taylor over the combination of Tony Pollard, who could easily finish the season as RB1. And, oh, yeah, Austin Eckler, who's done it like 2 straight years. So give me those 2 guys in the second, easy.
Yeah, definitely. And I gotta give you my standpoint too, because we kind of disagree there. But I do think, at least where I see a little bit of pause and a little bit of where I'm a little bit timid with Jonathan Taylor right now, is I see how much Shane Steichen was using Jalen Hurts in the red zone. I mean, he was number one as far as usage was in the red zone last year for quarterbacks. We saw a lot of rushing touchdowns. My only pause with Jonathan Taylor, and don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that I'm not drafting Jonathan Taylor. I'm not saying that you should be trading him away. But I do worry that maybe the touchdown numbers are not going to be as high as we've seen in the past. And I definitely am a little bit more leaning to the side where I don't know how many receptions Jonathan Taylor is going to get out of the backfield, because we know that those rushing quarterbacks don't typically check the ball down. They tend to tuck and run.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see that happening, and no, while I don't think a 20 touchdown finish is probably within his range of outcomes, he doesn't need to do that. I mean, he doesn't have to have 20 touchdowns to be an effective running back at the next level, and he never was a pass catcher. That really was never his role, and I don't believe that the Colts really want to do that with him. So, for what Jonathan Taylor's going to be, I think he'll be. I think he's fine at cost right now. I mean, he's a young, talented back. And last year was the worst year of his career, and he still was 17th points per game last year, and he didn't have any kind of quarterback play. Offensive line was banged up, so I'm just not panicked on JT right now.
Fair enough. Let's get into trade 5. And the way you reacted to that Tyreek Hill one, I know you're going to have a day with this one, because what we have is Michael Pittman and a
Oh
24
God.
second for Cooper Kupp. So, Ray, give it to them the way they need to hear it, man. Help these guys out.
I mean, I don't. If it were Michael Pittman in a first, I could get down with it. But why the second just doesn't do anything? It just let's say best case scenario, that's the 201, right? So by equip for people who play in 12 team leagues, that's the 111.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in 2024, the 111, just if we had to guess today, that's Will Shipley, Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze. Like, okay, but is that better than what Cooper Kupp? I mean, go look at the warp distribution on Cooper Kupp. He is literally 2+ warp. He is winning you weeks being in your lineup, and he's only 29 years old. He's got the type of game that will age well. He's not on his last stint. He's like, I think so many times in Dynasty, this misconception that you're chasing youth, when in reality, what you're chasing, Michael Pittman's not even, he's a threshold wide receiver. That's what he's a threshold wide receiver who is never going to be the type of guy that wins you a week that you have. That's a difference maker. There's no difference between Michael Pittman Jr. and Deontay Johnson, Rashad Bateman, Calvin Ridley, Juju. They're all the same. These are threshold receivers. You have given up a true difference maker for scoring fantasy points, and you've gotten back a threshold wide receiver and a second round pick, where at best it's the 111 in a 12 team league. If it's a 2024 first, I feel a little bit differently, but Pittman in a second, give me Cooper Kupp, man.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it's an infatuation with youth, and you've even said it on your show over on Wake Up. Dynasty Fantasy Football these days is like modified redraft, and so we're playing it a little bit more where we don't. It doesn't. I just don't think it matters. I mean, there's a lot of people who are worried about the Tyreek Hill, the Stephon Diggs, the Cooper Kupps, and these are elite wide receivers that are going to be wide receiver ones for your fantasy football rosters for at least 2 more seasons, at least. And so if you can get 2 years of top 10 production out of a guy, I mean, I just am not selling that. And at this point, you could take that and put it on your roster, keep it for 2 years, make that a competitive window for you, go win 2 championships with those guys on your rosters, and be fine letting them ride off into the sunset, dying on your roster like that. I'm totally fine with that if you can get the championships out of it. But when it's all said and done, I just think I'm not a fan of moving Kupp for Pittman in the second, like you said.
I mean, it's a small sample size, but in point per game, Cooper Kupp was number 1 back-to-back years. Top 3 in target share, top 4 in target rate, top 15 in air yard share, top 10 in yards per route run. Like, why are you giving that up for Michael Pittman in a second? No thanks.
Yeah, and like you said, small sample size. That sample size is 9 games from last year, but again, like you said, don't. It's just the points per games that you're getting out of Cooper Kupp is just ridiculous. I mean, it's up there with Chase, JJ. I mean, it's over all of them. It's over all of them. That's where it is. So before we move on to our next trade, guys, make sure you go join our Discord. In there, we are doing a giveaway for a free signed NFL jersey mystery box. The only things that you have to do to enter this giveaway are be subscribed to the channel and be a member of our Discord. So go make sure you do that. We are giving that away at the end of this month. So you have about 2 more weeks to enter and get yourself a free signed NFL jersey. Now for trade number 6, Ray, we do have Superflex Titan Premium. Same thing. It's all of these are going to be the same context that we get for the rest of the way. It's all 10-team Superflex Titan Premium PPR. but you get Russell Wilson in a third for Joe Mixon. I'm leaning the side that has a quarterback. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is one where I would love to get a little more context on this team that is trading for Russell Wilson. I'm going to assume 10-team league, you give it up probably a starting running back. You probably need quarterback. So just based off of the limited information that I have, I think Russell Wilson would be the side that I lean on. Give me. I hope he's not just trading for depth. In a 10-team league, I'm not worried about a lot of depth, especially at QB. This is one where with what I have, I'd go Russell Wilson.
How many guys do you need as depth in your 10-team leagues? Do you think if you have 3 guys that you can plug in any given week, you feel fine with that?
Yeah, I think three is, and it's three. And then if you're in a lineup league, a lot of leagues that I play in, 98% of my dynasty portfolio is best ball.
Mhm.
So the construction of the type of quarterbacks that you want to roster is a little bit different. But in a 10-team league, it just depends on what you have at quarterback, right? If you've got a BAM tier guy, and those are the elite quarterbacks by any means necessary, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, you know the rest.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd be trading for Russell Wilson in that situation because I've already got the advantage of having one of those guys as long as my QB2 was competent. I don't think there's a steadfast answer to this, but I just in a 10 league, I want as many studs as I possibly can get. Like I just want studs all the way across, as many as I can get.
Fair enough. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely lean the quarterback side, especially if you need the quarterback. I mean, in Superflex, we just know how valuable that position can get at times, especially as injuries and things pile on. And like you said, in 10-team leagues, it's just not as deep. There's not as many quarterbacks that you need. So getting a guy like Russ, I mean, he's not going to be a huge difference maker. I think we can all agree on that now at this point, right? Like he's not going to, top 10 isn't in the range of outcomes for him this year, you think, right? I don't think so.
No, I don't. I don't think so. But crazier things have happened. Geno Smith, no one thought he'd be top 10 either. So we'll see
Yeah.
what Sean Payton can do. I mean, he's got the weapons. He's
Yeah.
got the weapons. They've got the weapons, and hopefully they've got the coach. So I'll just say that if I were betting, I would take the over 10 for Russell Wilson. But crazier things have happened, man.
Fair enough. Let's get to trade number 7, and that's going to be Najee Harris for Terry McLaurin and Rondell Moore. And again, same trade context that you get there. So Ray, how do you feel about this deal right here?
Man, I love Rondell Moore, the prospect. That was my guy. That was my guy.
I remember.
10-team league. If you have to start Rondell Moore in a 10-team league, then you've done a bad job of roster construction. You should never have to start him in a 10-team. How many is it start what? Start
It's
like
us.
9?
I think it start 10 in there. They start
Start
3 wide receivers,
in one flex and one super flex, 3 receivers, a flex and a super flex,
2 flex.
2 flexes.
So you could start
Yeah.
5 wide receivers, I guess.
If you're starting Rondell, you probably don't need to be starting 5 receivers. So this is the bet between the running back and Terry McLaurin. And right now, I would lean on the volume and the offense of Pittsburgh over a Sam Howell led Commanders team. Even though deep down inside, I've got a little glimmer of hope. I'm hopeful for Sam Howell, but I would not recommend and advise people to follow that line of thinking. That's just some inner hope here for Sam Howell. But I think in that situation, start 10. You could start up to 5 receivers, so it makes it a little more interesting. But I think Najee Harris is probably the player that and I love Terry McLaurin. It's just this offense is in transition. I don't know what's going to happen with Ron Rivera because if he stinks it up this year, he's gone. There's no doubt
Gone.
about that. Do they put Bieniemy in the head coaching job? I don't think he just automatically gets that, but who knows? There's so much uncertainty in that Washington quarterback room, OC head coach, that I would just give me Najee's production for the next couple of years and I'll figure out receiver later.
Yeah, and not to mention second year Jahan Dotson, who looked really good as a rookie. I mean, it's a smaller sample size as well because he had some injury there, but he looked fantastic, I think, as a rookie. And like you said, I would probably lean the Najee Harris side. I think the path of him finishing top 10 in his position is clearer than it is for Terry McLaurin. But at the end of the day, man, I'm okay if you go either way. I mean, if you needed a wide receiver and you needed to give Najee up to go get McLaurin, fine. I don't mind it.
Yeah, same.
So, all right, well, let's get these last 3 trades here. This one is going to be Chris Olave for Drake London and Zay Flowers. So we got a big boy trade. These are some young guys. Interested to hear your take on this.
Whoo, this is a big boy trade. You got young guys, they've all got capital, people like them. I think in this one, I'd take the 2-for-1. Give me London and Flowers. I would take the 2-for-1. Give me the two. That's the leverage. Olave is going to be awesome. This isn't an anti-Olave take, but if I can get a player that's maybe ranked a little lower, just a little bit in Drake London, little lower upside, just due to the fact that it's Desmond Ridder versus Derek Carr, but then you're giving me a first-round wide receiver on top of that, and Zay Flowers, that's going to a Todd Monken-led offense with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, who is a good passer despite what people want you to believe. Give me the 2-for-1. That's leverage. Give me that side all day. And I love Olave, but give me London and Flowers, baby.
Yeah, you even feel that way even though it's a 10 team.
Yeah, give me London and Flowers. Give me two of the guys. But here's the thing. It's the names, baby. Those are names.
Yeah.
London and Flowers individually, even if it's a 10-team league, those are names that people will like. If Zay Flowers is good, people will like him. You can flip him for a first. If London goes out there and those are two, it's essentially like you're trading 1 first for 2 first, right? I'll just take the risk in the reroll right there.
Yeah, fair enough. And I am a big fan of Chris Olave. Really liked him coming out. I was a little bit higher on him than some people were, but at the end of the day, man, I really do believe that getting Derek Carr is a quarterback upgrade. I think we haven't seen the ceiling of Chris Olave, and obviously we haven't seen the ceiling of Drake London and Zay Flowers either. But I think the floor of Chris Olave is definitely a lot higher this year, I would say, and maybe not a lot, but it's definitely higher in my opinion. But at the end of the day, I think you're right. There's more value on the London and Zay side. But if I'm looking to win this year, I'm rocking with Chris Olave.
Okay, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I think that situation is a much clearer path, much better quarterback, much better situation. But let's not forget that Michael Thomas is supposed to be back, right? If MT's on the field, listen, here's the thing. This is what I challenge Dynasty gamers to think about, because so many times we think we just know it all and we're dismissive to both sides of the coin. But you can't look at it from one way and say this pathway is so clear and then ignore the obvious that what if Michael Thomas is out there and healthy? What if Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau are involved? What if Rashid Shaheed is the deep threat? So, not saying that's the likely outcome, but for me, I think that what makes the best dynasty strategists are those that can truly see that from both angles, and then you exploit either lane, whether that's people who are too high or too low. You exploit based on that sentiment. So all I'm saying is, as great as it looked for Olave last year, there could be other variables in his way this season that pull back on some of that upside.
Yeah, I definitely will hear that argument as well. And you already mentioned his name, so shout out Rashid Shaheed, shout out Weber State Wildcats. Me and him both went to school together, so shout out Weber State. Um,
Don't.
But let's get to these last two, man. I know you got to get out of here pretty quickly, but we do got a big trade here. It's a lot of stuff, so let's take it
Wow.
in. Saquon Barkley, Calvin Ridley, Najee Harris, Kadarius Toney, and JMO for Bijan Robinson and Devontae Smith. So I'm interested to hear. I mean, look, man, we got some of the biggest names in fantasy football right here.
That's a big boy deal. That's a big boy deal. Saquon. Who else was on the top? It's Calvin Ridley,
Not
J-Mo,
Najee,
Najee,
Toney,
Toney for Bijan Robinson. And this is a 10-team league, start 10.
and Smitty.
Where you at, man?
I
I
lean the
know what side you
Bijan and
want.
Devontae Smith.
I know you want that side. Tell us why you would take those two over. Let's just say the starters that you're trading away. Saquon is definitely in your starting lineup 100%. Najee's in your starting lineup 100%. Ridley's probably in your starting lineup 100%. I'm not going to say Toney. I'm not going to say
We can't even say
J-Mo.
JMO. Yeah, I was gonna say we
No,
can't say
not going to say
JMO right now.
J-Mo. And who's the sixth player, or was it just those five?
Nope, it's those. So you're getting those three starters, and then you give up Bijan and Devontae, which I would say, can we agree that Devontae is a higher end starter than Ridley? Right, we can say that
Yes.
very easily. And then Bijan, do we agree that we would say he's probably a higher end? I mean, he's a higher end starter
Yes.
than Najee, right?
Yes, higher end than Najee. Year
Maybe
one, I'm not gonna say year one higher end than Saquon year one. I know people are I know everybody wants to say that Bijan's gonna have 2,000 yards his rookie year. I don't think I've got it on good authority that they're not gonna ruin the kid. Like he is their franchise. Like everything about Atlanta is Bijan. So
yep.
I think he's gonna be dope this year, but I don't think they're gonna just give him 400 touches year one. But I think what I would have done to just make this package make me feel a little bit better about not moving other assets is getting some type of capital back in return. Whether that was a couple of seconds, could I get a 25 first?
Little
If
something on top.
the team that got Bijan, I hope that team is ready to go because if you are just trading just because you want to have the young running back and you'll worry about winning in a couple of years, I don't think that's the right way to play it.
No.
That's a lot to give up to kind of wait a year or two. So I just hope that team is still ready to go because you gave up some good assets.
Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting one, and I think you can get very team specific with it. And for all we know, the team giving away Bijan and Devontae was cashing in because they need bodies to plug into a starting lineup. Maybe they were a team that wasn't really. Now I don't know why you would do that if you weren't really ready to compete. Actually, now that I'm saying it, because at that point you're getting older guys that if you weren't ready to compete, I don't think any of these guys are making you ready to compete now, especially in 10 teams. So it's interesting to look at, but I do lean the Bijan and Devontae side, and I think it's just a little bit more. I mean, look, man, it's just more fun to go get those guys.
Yeah, yeah, it is fun. And there's something you got to have fun in fantasy. I just want Bijan. We all want him, man.
And especially in these 10 teams, like you said, man, if you can go get your guy and maybe Bijan was your guy and hey, you got Devontae Smith too, who's a hell of a receiver and he's tied to Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts for, forever. So number 14 overall in fantasy points per game last year. So plus there's still the risk of Calvin Ridley, who we don't know how Calvin is going to look. I assume he's going to be pretty good. We don't know. We don't know what he's going to look like this year. It's still to be seen.
yeah, yeah.
So, all right, we got the last one in here, and it is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be Lamar Jackson for Trevor Lawrence and Samaje Perine. And let's just get Samaje Perine out of there. Let's not even look at him. It's Trevor Lawrence for Lamar Jackson. So, how do you feel about this one? It's funny when you get these straight one-for-one swaps at the same position because obviously somebody has a preference there. Interested to hear your thought.
Yeah, it's just all preference, man. I've got these guys, I believe, back to back in my personal rankings. They're in the same tier. Lamar Jackson, literally one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, already proven that. Trevor Lawrence, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. I have Lamar one spot ahead of T Law in my rankings, again, in the same tier. So just give me the guy that you like best. I don't think there was a winner in this deal. P Ryan, I don't really care about. He's in a 10 in a start 10 league. Again, you're probably unless you went zero RB, you're probably not starting him on a week to week basis. So this is just pick your flavor. 26-year-old Lamar, 24-year-old Trevor Lawrence. So
Yeah, I agree, and I'm actually flip flopped with you. I have T Law just a little bit above Lamar, but like you said, to each their own. You're going to pick your guy, and somebody. Each of these guys seem to have got their guy. But when it comes down to it, it's funny when you look at the points per game actually, and keep in mind there's an offensive coordinator change, like you said in Baltimore. But Lamar Jackson was number 6 overall in fantasy points per game. Trevor Lawrence was number 12. Now, we go to Todd Monken, and then you get Calvin Ridley added to Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I don't blame anybody for trading for Lamar. I don't blame anybody for trading for T Law. I think, like you said, both of these guys got their guys, and it's fair straight across the board.
yep.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. That was 10 Dynasty Fantasy Football trades that we reviewed for you guys. Ray, where can they find you at, man?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at RayGQue or on YouTube at Destination Devy.
All right, man. And I strongly encourage you guys to go check out Ray. Ray's one of the best in the business, guys. And he's quite honestly, Ray, I know I haven't ever told you this, but inspiration for why I even started content, not going to lie. So go check him out, guys. He's got good stuff over there at DD. So make sure you tap in. And we will see you guys on the next episode. I will see you then. Peace out.